it's so easy to get discouraged when you look at these like quick overnight wins. That's just press, just remember that the majority of these quick overnight wins are things that people have been working on for years and years and years. And then they relaunch and announce it. And they're like, we launched 5 months ago and we hit 1 million users right away. And I'm like, you didn't. You've been building this thing for 5 years. But like showing that behind the scenes of it takes years and years to build up. I think a lot of the older businesses, especially a lot of the old tech businesses, took them years to build them. And then all of a sudden, and now it appears like things are popping overnight. So just know it always takes longer, budget a lot longer, lean on your friends, and develop like great self-care habit, because it's one of those things that like it's exhausting and draining, but also one of the most rewarding experiences if it's something that you're driven to do.
Welcome to From a Woman to a Leader, the podcast for ambitious women in tech who are ready to grow their confidence, influence, and leadership without burning out or pretending to be someone they're not. I'm your host, Limor Bergman, and today I'm speaking with Virginia Frischkorn. She's a serial entrepreneur and the founder of Party Trick. Virginia built a luxury event company recognized by Vogue and Martha Stewart. She scaled to multi-million-dollar productions. She ran 4 businesses at once. And then COVID hit. And then her father passed away. And she had to ask herself the question that a lot of us avoid asking. Why am I building this? And who am I building it for? And in the episode, Virginia and I talk about what it really takes to scale, why systems save you from burnout, the truth about overnight success, and how to build something that impacts millions instead of just paying the bills. And for those of you who are building a business or thinking about starting a business or questioning your next move, I think this conversation will help you. So are you ready? Let's dive right in. Hi, Virginia. How are you?
I'm good, Limor. Thank you so much for having me.
It's a pleasure having you here today. To be honest, I don't have enough entrepreneurs on my show, so happy to have you.
Well, I'm thrilled.
And I know that you're a serial entrepreneur. You founded several businesses. And I wanted us to start actually from your personal story you shared with me when we talked a while back. And you talked about your father, so I'll let you share about him.
Definitely. So I grew up in a very entrepreneurial family. My father was an entrepreneur. My brother was, my sister was. And I think we always just knew that if you could dream big and find a way to make it happen, like he just had us pitching him things when we were children. But what we really talked about is the role he played in this like larger transition and evolution in my life and the business that I'm building now with Party Trick. Both my brother, my sister, and I all started businesses that my dad joked and he called them lifestyle businesses. And I remember, I think I was probably 27, 28, and I didn't understand that concept. I don't think it was probably as common of a term as it is now, but it hurt. And I like got a little chip on my shoulder and I was like, okay, well, what's so wrong about that? Fast forward to 2020. And at that time, and we'll dive into this, I was running 4 different businesses that were all in the live event production space. And events were one of those industries that got hit hard, like very hard with COVID. And, I had to lift and shift over 1,000 events. I kept my entire team on because we didn't know how long this was going to exist and happen. All the meanwhile, I had 2 little kids. I have a 9 and 10-year-old now. So, they're 4 and 5. And my dad would just like question me and he's like, what are you doing? Like, what is the purpose of everything that you're trying to build? And I kind of just got frustrated. Anyhow, I'm like, there's got to be a better way. I watched Dad, what he was doing, and I'm like, there's got to be a way to shift how I'm building these in-person services businesses. And then I saw him with his friends, and I saw him hosting these dinner parties during COVID, which is rather taboo. And I'm like, look, okay, cool. Someone can give me a couple $1 million and I can throw these phenomenal experiences. But how come people struggle to get together, to belong, to have these like experiences at home? And they were doing them very safely, like outside in the garden. I'm like, I want to build something that can really foster that connection and community that we all deeply crave. And I think my parents' generation was one where they got together, they did the dinner parties, they did the supper clubs, and they did it not just for social media, right? They did it for
Yeah.
real, like because that was so important to them. And I started and I whipped up this company. It was called Bluebird in a Box. It was like a prototype for what we've now built with Party Trick, and worked my tail off, launched this. And the next day I got a call from my brother, and my father had passed in his sleep. And he was such an amazing, powerful man. And he was 67, went to bed, didn't wake up. But it was one of these things that caused both my brother, my sister, and I to just stop and like, what are we doing? Like, why are we doing what we're doing? And we all had this like huge crisis of, we want to be for our children, but where we spend our time, how we give back, the careers that we're building, like there was a whole new sense of meaning. So I started shutting down my other businesses and realizing, look, I want to build something that can impact millions of people's lives. I want to do something that can foster connection, foster community, empower anyone to have these experiences, whether it's people coming over for a movie night or a game night or a 50th birthday party, where they feel like they can host with ease and grace. And being in the event world and having been in it for almost 20 years at that point, the tools out there just don't exist. Like they're all point solutions. It's, invitations, or maybe you go on Pinterest for inspiration, but knowing what to do, when to do, how to do it, the way my father did, because he constantly was hosting and gathering. I was like, look, I have the infrastructure after all these years. Why don't I turn what we've built into something that can really drastically like improve the lives of people? And I can make it where there's a little bit of dad everywhere, and they feel so calm, so confident, and they belong. I was a psychology major, so the sense of belonging versus just fitting in, and like actually really getting these experiences that matter. And they're not the fancy ones. It's not where like the food matters, the decor matters. It's the everyday. So that's really what started it, and it's something that drives me every single day to bring a little bit of him. And when we had his party a year after he passed, people came up to me and were just talking about the impact he had on their life, how he made them feel. He was so charismatic, like the only person in the room. And I feel like when you're hosting, and I hosted 75 people last night for an event for my company, I got probably text from almost all of them being like, that was insane. It was a Monday night in Denver, Colorado, and I got 75 people come out. It's a gift when you can bring people. And if we can bring that to others, whether it's personally or professionally, then I'll feel like I've done a great job. And it gets me out of bed at 3:30 to build the software that we're building now.
Wow. So first of all, Virginia, I'm very sorry about the death of your father. He was very young.
He was very young. Taken too soon, but he lived a very full life.
It seems like he's still with you and inspired you, and still inspire you every day.
Every day he's there pushing me along, and I'm joking at him. I'm like, watch me. Just watch me do this.
Yeah. And I think what you do with Party Trick, what I understand, it's like bringing people together, helping people organize, get together.
Yeah. So what we do in the way, maybe I'd explain it to one of my kids, is the platform tells you what to do, when to do it, and how to do it for any gathering. So we have these templates. And it's like, where do you go buy the cute things? How do you DIY it? What playlist should you be playing? And then it tells you like every step of the way. It kind of guides you and supports you and gives you all the best practices of years of events. The core of it is how do we operationalize and take a plan that you might see a photo of and bring it to life, and do so in such a time efficient way that you can actually do what matters most, which is connect with the people who are in the room versus run around like a chicken with your head cut off.
Definitely. And I think now even more than ever, it's important for people to connect. And tell us a little bit about your entrepreneurial journey, because that's very interesting for me and for any woman that wants to start a business or thinking about it. So obviously you grew in an entrepreneurial environment, right? Your father was an entrepreneur, and it seems like your siblings are all entrepreneurs. I grew up in a very kind of employee mindset home, so it was very difficult, and still is, to break free from that. How do you do that? How do you go about, okay, I have a great idea. How do you go and, if you can share, how did you go and implement that?
I am very lucky I was young. So I was not the child who like started a ton of businesses in high school and like the lemonade stands. It was something that after I graduated from college, I moved kind of on a whim to Aspen, Colorado. And I got a job. I was doing kind of a ski bum thing. And then I started working in luxury hospitality at the Little Nell, which is a 5-star, 5-diamond property. Growing up on the East Coast, I'm very type A. I'm very go, 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 go. I'd gone to schools that really embody that. And Aspen's a unique place where that's not really, right? It's a lot of ski moms, it's a lot of lifestyle, a lot of stay-at-home daughters. And I was watching the people that I was working with, and I'm like, okay, I can do this better than them. And I was 24. So I just on a day was like, I'm going to start a company. And I had been really careful. My father was really good about teaching us a lot about fiscal responsibility. I'd saved the majority of the money I'd made over those 2 years, was working multiple jobs. So I saved up this cushion and was like, boom, I'm going to just do this. And I went really wide at first, which is one of these things that everyone says, go really narrow, go, an inch wide, a mile deep. If you're going to start something, really find your niche. I threw like 10 concepts out and I was like, which one's going to stick when I launched the first company? And so I wanted to do event planning. I wanted to do event marketing, event PR, event social media management for the event industry. Just wanted to kind of be all around. Event planning was the one that ended up taking off. We built that first company, which was called Bluebird Productions. And I love teams. I love working with people. I think there's a common theme of like being around people, which is funny because I am actually an introvert, but interacting with others is really important to me. And the team environment is really important. So launched Bluebird and quickly became one of the top 50 planners in the world by Vogue and Martha Stewart and Brides. We were doing these kind of crazy brand activations. And I think for me, I didn't know what I was doing, but I just did it. And I think that's almost every day. I still don't know what I'm doing half the time. I mean, I have a plan, but then it changes, right? And so now more than ever, it's also probably easier. It's getting out of your head because the resources there with chat, just the internet to go, how do I start this? Or using like access to other people now is so much greater than it even was. And this was back in, 2007-ish. So yeah, launched those. And then I realized the importance of brand and realized I didn't want to dilute the brand that I built because I built a luxury, ultra luxury brand. So I started little sister companies around it that all kind of like fed because I was starting to realize, look, I'm trading time for money for some of these events. How can I do this in a different way? I started systematizing my work, building courses to build more passive revenue, looking at alternative revenue streams because that's something that I think I love reading. I love listening to a ton of like I run, and when I run, I listen to business books or I listen to mindset work. And so I would encourage anyone who's thinking, is this something I want to do? Listen, but also just do it. Like you learn by failing forward. I have like, especially with this latest venture, I failed forward so many times and I am still every single day. And I think that's what you just get up and do it again. And you're gritty, you're resilient, and you show up.
Definitely. And I think I love also reading books, and books are a wonderful resource. And as you said, like we are in an information age. Everything is available for us online. Some
Yeah.
paid, some free. Like there's so much information.
Which
And
can be overwhelming too when
it's
there's too
very
much.
overwhelming. And I would say there is a hazard of becoming an information junkie, which, I've guilty as charged, right? A lot of times, like you consume so much. I bought so many courses, like, oh, I want to learn more and more and more. Instead of, like you said, sometimes you just go and do it. You just need to go and do it and
Yeah.
not wait
Yeah. Just
and be
get
willing
out. I
to
mean, again,
fail.
it's pull Nike, pull the just do it, over and over.
Yeah.
Think about it. Like, so, and know that like, it's okay to fail. Mistakes are
Yeah.
going to happen. None of it's life altering typically. So
Tell us a little bit about scaling, because you mentioned to me how you scale, like from, I think you mentioned 500K to $5 million event. How did you do that? How did you go about scaling your business?
I love systems and operations, and I was lucky to have had that first job at the Little Nell where we worked with a GM who was very systems and kind of operations driven, where I wrote all the SOPs at that time for the property. And so when I started my first businesses, I just started documenting everything as well. And I started documenting my process and my workflow. And I did that out of necessity to train my team. But it was something that I then realized, look, if we implement systems and honestly leverage technology, we could ultimately spend more time on sales, spend more time on the creative, and automate a lot of the nitty gritty, because a lot of like planning, a lot of events is very time consuming work. So to either make more money, you're doing more, or you're getting, right? So you're doing more weddings, or you're charging more for them. And so if you charge more for them, you have to offer a different level of services, or it's at higher volume. How do you do higher volume? You have systems that automate the majority. So these systems and these workflows that I built ultimately is what we kind of use as the infrastructure for Party Trick. And a lot of that, the back end of if this, then that, if you book a DJ, it's different than a band. This is the email that you're going to send to the florist over and over, so you don't end up ping-ponging emails. I watched my team send 30 emails back and forth to order flowers. I'm like, this is stupid. How do we cut this down to one? And so if you can basically look for patterns, and again, a lot of that comes with experience, you start to see these opportunities. And for us, that allowed us to start scaling the business, doing higher volume as well as kind of a higher tier, because we opened up that time to offer high level of personal service that in luxury service you have to do. So it was all about finding the tools and the systems that then I could train as well, and finding a team that would, that I could inspire to use them. Because I remember I had a team at one point where one of the girls, she had like 60 weddings she was managing, and she was freaking out. And I looked at her one day and I'm like, what's going on? And she's like, I'm just so overwhelmed. There's so much. I'm like, okay, like let's dive into your Asana. Asana is like one of my favorite. I run my life on Asana. And we get in there and she hadn't touched it in like a month and a half. And shame on me that I hadn't identified this earlier, but we took 2 days, we worked our way through it. And she was going from like 80-hour weeks down to 40-hour weeks when she just implemented the system after. And that's where like you see the power of using these things that like are annoying to set up initially. But when you use them, there's a real reason. And it creates that standardization to then create customization on top.
Yeah. So a lot of systems and processes and documentation.
That was why, and then ultimately, knowing your client. And then for us in luxury service, and that's different now. And it's actually what has allowed me to actually build the business we have, the personal relationships that you cultivate with your client. I mean, planning and events are such a referral-based business. Really, like, yes, we did a lot with publicity to get the social proof, but it was clients referring each other. And that's actually like how we had cultivated the pipeline that we have with Party Trick. So all of those relationships and relationship management. But relationship management, it requires systems as well. I mean, I use tools, tons of them, to manage the relationships I have with clients, friends, just those in my network. So it's another great way to kind of think about how are you using these systems and tools in your personal life to set yourself up for success for those sales, for those ongoing relationships as well.
Any specific tip that you want to share?
I mean, I'm so dorky. I use Asana for like relationship management too. I like don't like a lot of CRMs. I built my own sort of CRM within Asana. So I put people on rotation where I'm like, okay, this is someone whom I proactively reach out to once a month. And then I keep notes on everyone in it. And I mean, I manage a lot of people. We're onboarding over 500 brands right now. And obviously we use HubSpot for like larger team organization, but like I put all my personal notes. So, okay, a person, their kids, where they might live, some of the notes from the last conversation, I link the recordings from calls. And what I find is that it's really helpful to have a more personal touch. So I don't know, I think having children made me realize I can't rely on my brain for everything. And like, I wish I did, but my memory, it's like, and when you're jumping back and forth and managing the systems are really helpful. But I think people would be like, wow, that's like, it's not personal, but it actually is. It's the system that works for me to keep it personal instead of having to like deep dive into a ton of research and remember all of these things. It's just at my fingertips for me. So, yeah.
So I'm kind of taking what you're saying, that you have to be really intentional and plan of nurturing relationships, both personal and professional.
Yeah. And I think with relationships and relationship management, it's one of these things that people like, they use the word transactional, I think, in a negative way. Everything's transactional and marriage is transactional. And I think when you turn that and you're like, wait, I'm actually cultivating this relationship not because I want to gain anything out of it other than maybe personal enjoyment, right? You don't look at your friends, like your closest, your best friend, and be like, I'm gaining something from this, but you actually are, right? You're gaining joy, you're gaining great experiences, you're like gaining shared time. And if you look at these professional relationships in the same way and treat them with kind of how can I help first? and ultimately like create that relationship. When things come out of it, great. Instead of going in with this like pointed, I have to work with this person, just to get to know people. And if you treat everyone in that personal sense first, then the professional kind of expands.
Because eventually everything that we do, we want to gain something out of it. I mean,
Yeah.
everything we do, even people that are very philanthropic and do a lot of, fun, they give back a lot and they contribute their time. Eventually they gain something out of it.
Yeah. I mean, we're driven to action because we want something, right?
Yeah.
If you don't want something to happen, you don't get out of bed in the day.
And
so
sometimes this something is to make us feel good.
Totally. Yeah. And I don't know, I look at this where like, if you treat people like people and just as they are, strip away titles, strip away status, what have you, and you ultimately just foster that relationship person for person, you're gaining, again, that connection, that community. And from that, people want to work with people. So ultimately there is professional gain in the end. But if you go with that approach, it's just so much more authentic. And honestly, at the end of the day, you're working with people that you want to work with. You're spending your time with people. I think time is so limited. Why spend time with people that don't work for you in one way? Like, I mean, yeah.
Absolutely, and definitely people work with people. As much as we rely on technology and everything and systems and automations, eventually people connect with people and want to work with people.
Yeah. I think the value of relationships is so strong and so powerful. And again, in-person relationships being more important than ever. There's a woman that I've been interviewing recently, and she may join our team, she may not join our team, but we finally were able to connect in person. And in this crazy day and age, I actually met another one of my team members who'd worked for me for 3 years, and I'd never met her in person
Wow.
until like very recently. And I was like, oh my God. But when you get that in-person time, it really solidifies. And so when I met this woman who hopefully will bring onto the team, I was like, you can read their energy, you can read their body cues, you ultimately start to see, and it's that much more enjoyable. Like, I love getting, our team's all remote, and I love getting my team together as much as possible. It's not as often as I'd like, but the magic happens when we build something together, and it comes from those like amazing work sessions. Honestly, they're better when they're in person. They just are. But the nature of the world right now, we're all over the place.
Yeah. I mean, I think that the remote work allows us a lot of flexibility and makes it much simpler to hire people, right? When you don't have to hire people only in Aspen, right?
Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, like we're in Texas, we're in California. I bounce up halftime in Aspen, halftime in New York. So I see team in New York when I'm there. Like and the remote opportunities, it's amazing because I wouldn't be able to build this if I used only people in Aspen. Like my old businesses, sure. But actually, even then, I had team in Denver and New York, and they'd fly in for all of our experiences. So yeah.
Yeah, for sure. What other tips would you give to someone who wants to start a business?
I mean, again, like I said, just to echo this and then move right on, just start, just do it. But I do think it's about, and then it'll kind of be on the second point, which is the relationships matter. Go and talk to people, bounce the ideas, ask them who they know, and don't be, I think, and this is more for women than anything. Women typically don't like to ask for help in the same way, or like I think that we're afraid that we're going to like look stupid or we should know these things. And the
Yeah.
importance of just going out and seeking mentorship or just cold DMing someone. I'm like, I'm so inspired by the work you're doing. Like, would you be willing to talk with me and like share some of your experience? I think that's a really good thing for people to do. I love I've done that. I love when people have reached out to me, and if that's that community, right? That we can all kind of help each other. So if you're inspired to start something, just have that conversation. That even is a first step, and then go ahead and get it going. I think, again, being mindful of how much you read. Again, in this information age, there is so much, but you can get paralyzed by it. There's a silly book. It's not a silly book. It's an amazing book called The Mom Test. And I recommend that everyone, if they're starting a business, before you go out and you start to research, is like, what's the market? Is the idea a good idea? The Mom Test is a really great book to read, to just start to learn how to question people. And I think the quick premise is, if you take a business idea to your mom loves you, right? Your mom's like, oh my God, that's so good. And same with your friends. So how you're like basically doing market research really matters, because as entrepreneurs, I'm like, I think my idea is amazing. I go out and talk to my friends. They're like, oh, Virginia, it's so good. Well, you know what? It might not be that good. And so how you position those questions, you can ultimately get a lot more truth out of people, but I can also sway their opinion with how I question them. So this book is a really great one to remove some of that kind of bias and to remove some of the people just wanting to people please you. So it's a really good one to kind of, okay, is my idea something? So if you need that sense of certainty, it's a good one to kind of just read, listen, reread. Something that every 2 years or so I try to reread and come back to, because I definitely default and I go back to selling my baby the way I want to and actually not questioning people properly when we're building any feature. So fortunately, I've got teams who can help me with that now.
Those are great tips, and I wrote it down, so I'll definitely include the book recommendation in the episode. Anything else you want to share today?
I mean, I think one of the most important things, and if I had to talk like what I wish I knew, everything takes longer. It's always so much more expensive. People say they love your idea, then they don't sign up for it or they don't buy it. And you're like, wait, you're my sister. You're supposed to support me. And it's not a reflection of you. Like maybe she isn't your ideal client profile, right? Like my sister is not for my product. I think she is, but she's actually not when I narrow it down. And so if you're thinking about going and starting something, there's that fine balance of like trying to remove like the passion versus also the objectivity. And then within that lies that tension that we have to get so gritty and so resilient and get up every day and breathe life into whatever it is you're trying to build. And it's typically going to take so much longer. And I think people give up too quickly. One, maybe they don't have the money to keep it going or they need, and so then keep it going, but get a side job if you believe in it. And if it brings passion and if you're still excited about it. But I mean, it's like having a child, right? Everyone says it's hard. And then, or this love for your child is something that you can never know until you have one. Then you have a child and you're right. You're like, that love is unlike anything else. And yes, it's harder than you could have ever told me it was going to be, but more rewarding as well. I look at business in the same way. I can say it's going to be hard. It's like, get gritty, get resilient. It's going to take longer. And most people are like, oh no, it's different for me. It's always hard. And once you do it, you start to see it. But I encourage people to just do it because we need more people trying and building. And I think it's so easy to get discouraged when you look at these like quick overnight wins. That's just press, just remember that the majority of these quick overnight wins are things that people have been working on for years and years and years. And then they relaunch and announce it. And they're like, we launched 5 months ago and we hit 1 million users right away. And I'm like, you didn't, you've been building this thing for 5 years. But like showing that behind the scenes of it takes years and years to build up. I think a lot of the older businesses, especially a lot of the old tech businesses, took them years to build them and then all of a sudden pop. And now it appears like things are popping overnight. So just know it always takes longer, budget a lot longer, lean on your friends and develop like great self-care habit, because it's one of those things that like it's exhausting and draining, but also one of the most rewarding experiences if it's something that you're driven to do.
Definitely. And I think kind of I took also from when you shared like how you started that you really have to pick something that you feel like passionate about it. Like for you, it was event related to, event planning. And for me, it's related to, helping women in tech. And it's kind of asking yourself, why am I doing that? Because the money cannot be the answer. I mean, we all want to make money, obviously. Otherwise, we'll not start a business. But it has to be something more than just earn a living. Otherwise, it wouldn't stick. If you don't like it, if it's not something you have a bigger motive to do, you will not stick around, doing hardships.
Correct. Yeah. I think that passion is so important, being kind of mission driven. And I look at this as I've gone from personal services to building a software product now. I was in such a female and honestly pretty supportive community before and very different now. And it's tested me. And I'm glad I did this later in life when I've had a thicker skin. And I also like have had the wins that I had because it's kept me going as I've evolved and transitioned. Similar industry in terms of events, but very different in terms of the type of people I work with and in type of the product I'm building now versus the service providing before. But I know what we can build, and that mission and that like passion for it is what like pushes over and over, because if it's just a job, it's just a job, and that doesn't help.
Yeah. And before we part ways for today, Virginia, tell us a little bit about your company and how can people reach out?
Definitely. So Party Trick is a software. It's a platform that helps people plan gatherings. And so on our consumer side, it's like having a virtual party planner in your pocket. We have templates that tell you what to do, when to do them, how to do them. And then we've really evolved it to support businesses, and whether it's their sales teams, their marketing teams, ops, even HR, all of these experiences that are happening by, I call this person the secret event planner. Like, they're not an event planner. They're not going to hire an event planner for an employee of the month party, right? So we help templatize that and make it really easy so they can do it like their more strategic work. So that's a little bit about Party Trick. It's a new concept end to end. I encourage everyone to jump on our consumer side. It's free, which is amazing. I love getting people on this. It's partytrick.com. Go sign up for an account. But with hosting season, I mean, every month there's a reason to celebrate. Every weekend, even, it's just a family dinner. And if we can help make it that much easier and get you back to the time with the people you love, that makes me happy.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
So I'll definitely put the link there. And thank you so much, Virginia, for the talk today.
Thank you so much. It was such a pleasure.
Thank you so much for listening to the episode. I hope it was valuable for you. Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast on your favorite podcasting platform and share it with any woman who needs to hear it. And I'll see you next week. Bye.